Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Teruvan Saranai. Good evening, Venerable Mahasangha, Sayalis, and brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Today we will be talking further on the Parittārammaṇa Tika. So the Parittārammaṇa Tika comprises of three terms. The first term, Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, states having limited sense objects. The second term, Mahaggatārammaṇa Dhamma, states having sublime sense objects. And finally, Appamāṇārammaṇa Dhamma, states having immeasurable sense objects. So during our last lesson, we discussed about the different ālambana. So that lesson was a foundation for us to begin this lesson. So now first we'll take Parittārammaṇa Dhamma and see what it means. Now the word Parittārammaṇa means something that takes a limited object as its object. Now, for example, if you take the chitta cetasika, the consciousness and mental factors, they cannot exist without taking an object. So here what is really meant is what chitta and cetasika dhamma that take limited objects as its sense object. So that is the meaning of this term. So we will go back to this slide which we discussed during our last lesson. In green, what we have are the states or the consciousness that take Paritta Dhamma, limited sense objects at all times. Then if we go to the next slide, these are all given in black. So these are Anekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma. So they take limited objects as well as other Dhammas as their objects. So coming back to the Ekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, this means that these consciousness as well as the mental factors that arise together with them, they always take a limited sense object. So what are these? The Dvipancha Viññāna, the 2-5 consciousness, the 2 Chakku Viññāna, eye consciousness, the 2 Sota Viññāna, ear consciousness, 2 Gana Viññāna, nose consciousness, 2 Jivha, and 2 Kaya Viññāna, tongue and body consciousness. These 10 always take Paritta Dhamma, and they have their own respective object that they always take. Now, for instance, the eye consciousness can never take anything apart from a visible form as its object. Similarly, the Sota Viññāna will always take sound. Gana Viññāna will always take smell. So these have their designated sense objects. But now look, when it comes to the Panchadvara Vajjana Chitta, the 5 door adverting Chitta, and the 2 Sampatichana, the receiving Chittas, these can take all 5 of those above objects. Then when we come to the Hasituppada, the smile-producing consciousness, the 8 Kamavachara Mahavipaka, the great resultants, and the 3 Santirana, investigating consciousness. These consciousness, they always take Kamavachara Dhamma. So not only those that we mentioned under the previous consciousness, but everything, all 54 Chitta, the 52 Cetasika, and the 28 Rupa. So now these are the Ekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma. They always take only limited sense objects as their object. We now come to the Anekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma. So this means that these consciousness, they take limited objects as their object. But at times they are able to take others as their object as well. Now let's look at the first group, the 12 Akusala and the 8 Jnana Vipayutta Kama Javana. So Jnana Vipayutta Kama Javana means the 4 Jnana Vipayutta Kusala and the 4 Jnana Vipayutta Kriya. So these are the 8 sense sphere javanas which are dissociated from knowledge. These consciousness, they can take all Dhamma except for the supramundane Dhamma. So what are the supramundane Dhamma? These are the 8 supramundane Chitta, the 36 Chetasika associated with them, and Nibbana. Apart from those Dhammas, these consciousness can take everything else, which means it can take the 81 mundane Chitta, the 52 Chetasika, 28 Rupa, and Panyati concepts as their objects. Next, we get the 4 Jnana Sampayutta. Next, we get the 4 Jnana Sampayutta Kamavachara Kusala, the 4 sense sphere wholesome consciousness that is associated with knowledge. Now, this is a bit of a higher compared to what we got before. These are higher. Now, earlier we spoke about the Jnana Vipayutta Chitta, the Kusala and Kriya. So, because they don't have knowledge, they are of a lower state. The akusala anyway are of a lower state. Now we are coming to a little bit of a higher consciousness. So the 4 Jnana Sampayutta Kamavachara Kusala as well as the Abhinya 5th Jnana Kusala. That is the consciousness of direct knowledge. These are able to take all Dhamma except for the Arahatta Magga, path and Phala, fruition. So they can't take the Arahatta, Magga and Phala Chitta or the Chetasika. They can take everything else. So what is meant by everything else are the remaining consciousness, the 52 Chetasika, 28 Rupa and concepts, Panyati. Next we get the Manodvara Vajjana, mind-adverting consciousness. The 4 Jnana Sampayutta Kamavachara Kriya Chitta, the 4 sense sphere functional consciousness associated with knowledge, and the Abhinya 5th Jnana Kriya, direct knowledge consciousness. These are able to take all Dhamma, regardless of what it is. It can take, or they can take all Dhamma as their object. Now let's analyze this last group. Manodvara Vajjana Chitta occurs as the starting point of the mind-cognitive process. So if you take the a normal sense sphere cognitive process, the mind, the Manodvara Vajjana Chitta is able to take any of the Paritta Dhamma as its object. Then when it comes to the jhanas, whether they are Rupavachara, Arupavachara, or whether they are Magga cognitive process, these jhanic states also, the cognitive processes also first begins with the Manodvara Vajjana. So the Manodvara Vajjana is a consciousness that is able to take all Dhamma as its starting point, as its object, because it's the starting point of this, the mind-cognitive process. And then if you look at the 4 Jnana Sampayutta Kamavachara Kriya, what kind of person is able to develop or able to generate a Jnana Sampayutta Kamavachara Kriya Chitta? It is someone who is an Arahant. So the Kriya Chitta, the Jnana Sampayutta Kamavachara Kriya, then the Abhinya, 5th Jnana Kriya, these consciousness are generated only by Arahants. So the Arahants, because they have already developed the Arahatta Magga and Phala state, the Kriya Chittas that they generate are able to take as their objects those supramundane Dhammas as well. So this is where the difference is between the second and third groups that we took. So when it comes to the second group, the Abhinya 5th Kusala, 5th Jhana Kusala, the Chitta is not able to perceive the Arahatta, Magga and Phala. But if this individual. Now, say, for example, the Abhinya, fifth jhana kriya, that is generated only by an arahatta person, individual who has become an arahant. So he is able to take all dhammas as his object. So this is the difference. This is why the Abhinya kusala cannot take as its object the arahatta, magga, and phala. So someone may ask, then why can't arahant generate the abhinya, fifth jhana kusala, and through that consciousness, can't they see the arahatta, magga, and phala? So the answer there is, once a person becomes an arahant, they don't generate any kamma. So what is kusala and what is akusala? Kusala and akusala are kamma. So if an arahant does not generate any kamma, what do they generate? They generate kriya chitta as a result. They're just functional states. So that is why even when an arahant, because they don't generate any kusala, it is not applicable to them. Now we will look at the Nikkepa Khandam, the summary section description of Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, states that have limited sense objects. Khatame Dhamma Parittārammaṇa, which are the states having limited sense objects? Paritte Dhamme Arabba Ye Uppajjanti Chitta Chetasika Dhamma. Conscious states and their mental factors which arise in connection with limited sense objects. Immeasurable Parittārammaṇa. These are the states having limited sense objects.
那现在呢，我们来看在这个法集里面呢，概要章里面怎么去为这个微小所缘法做定义。哪些法呢是属于微小所缘法呢？那些呢源于微小法而升起的心性所法，那这些法呢是属于微小所缘法。
Now here the word arabba, paritte dhamme arabba. What is this word arabba mean? Arabba means with reference to, or it means having made a mental object. Now, what it really means is whether this object, whether it's limited, sublime, regarding of what it is, whatever states arisen by making limited states the objects, that is what is meant by with limited objects. So under the Ekanta and Anekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, we described not only Paritta Dhamma, but also we spoke about the Abhinya, Kusala and Kriya Chitta. Now Abhinya, fifth jhana, Kusala and Kriya Chitta, these are Rupavachara jhana. So they are sublime consciousness. But even though they themselves are sublime, they are able to take Paritta Dhamma, limited objects, as their sense object. And at the same time, everything else that we spoke were all limited objects. They were Paritta Dhamma, starting from the two Chakku Viññāna, and then we went on to speak about the Jnana Vipayutta and the Jnana Sampayutta Kusala, Vipaka and Kriya Chittas and the Akusala Chittas. All of those are Paritta Dhamma, and they themselves are Paritta Dhamma as well, and they can take Paritta Dhamma as their objects. So here, regardless of whether they are themselves, that means the Chitta and Chetasika that is taking the object, regardless of whether they themselves are limited or sublime, here what we are concerned about is the object that they take, whether that object is a limited object. So if it's a limited object, then we are going to consider all of the states that are those that are able to take limited objects as their sense objects. Now we look at the Atthakatha Khandam, the comment chapter, description of Parittārammaṇa Dhamma. Khatame Dhamma Parittārammaṇa, which are the states having limited sense objects? Sabbo Kāmāvacharassa Vipāko, all resultants of the sense sphere. Kiriya Mano Dhatu, functional mind element. Kiriya Hetuka Mano Viññāna Dhatu Somanassa Sahagata. the rootless functional mind consciousness element accompanied by joy. Ime dhamma Parittārammaṇa. These are the states having limited sense objects. Now let's look at them one by one. Right, so this is from the Atthasālinī. Among the triplets, first in that of the limited object, there are these 25 states of consciousness which have limited objects. Now let's look at the 25 states. First, it was mentioned sabbo kāmāvacharassa vipāko, all resultants of the sense sphere, all the kāmāvachara vipāka. So we have ahetuka vipāka as well as sahetuka vipāka. So under the ahetuka vipāka, we have 7 akusala vipāka, 8 ahetuka kusala vipāka, and 8 sahetuka kusala vipāka. Altogether, there are 23 vipāka chitta. Next, we came across the word kiriya mano dhatu, functional mind element. And this is with reference to the panchadvara vajana chitta, the 5 sense door adverting consciousness. Now, why specifically we are talking about kiriya mano dhatu? Does it mean that the other 2 chittas, the 2 sampatichana chitta, aren't they included under Parittārammaṇa Dhamma? They actually are. So we mentioned them before. So under sabbo kāmāvacharassa vipāko, we spoke about all 7 akusala vipāka, all 8 ahetuka kusala vipāka. So one of the sampatichana is a akusala vipāka and the other is a ahetuka kusala vipāka. So these 2 were already spoken of before as sabbo kāmāvacharassa vipāko. Therefore, now we are left with the Panchadvara Vajana Chitta. So to describe that, the word that they have used here in this Atthakatha Khandam is Kiriya Mano Dhatu, functional mind element. Next, we have Kiriya Hetuka Mano Vijñāna Dhatu. So if you break it up, Kiriya Ahetuka Mano Vijñāna Dhatu. Kiriya meaning functional, Ahetuka meaning rootless. Mano Vijñāna Dhatu means mind consciousness element. Somanassa Sahagata. So what is the Somanassa Sahagata Mano Vijñāna Dhatu Kriya Chitta? It is only one chitta, the Hasituppada chitta. So this sentence refers to the Hasituppada chitta. Now this is the description from the Atthasālinī. So they have expanded those 25 states of consciousness. So we have already described them. So I'm not going to go into details of this, but you can read up once we share the PDF with you. Now we'll move on to the next paragraph in the Atthakatha Khandam. Now this paragraph is actually a common paragraph to Parittārammaṇa Dhamma as well as Mahaggatārammaṇa Dhamma. So now let's take a look at that. Kāmāvachara kusalato chattaro jnana vippayutta chittuppada. So what does this mean? This is with reference to the 4 jnana vippayutta kāmāvachara kusala, the 4 sense sphere wholesome states dissociated from knowledge. And also the kiriyato chattaro jnana vippayutta chittuppada, the 4 jnana vippayutta kriya chitta, the 4 functional states dissociated from knowledge. Now these are all sense sphere consciousness. Sabbang akusala, all unwholesome states. ime dhamma siya Parittārammaṇa siya Mahaggatārammaṇa na Appamāṇārammaṇa. These states can have limited sense objects, they can have sublime sense objects, but they cannot have immeasurable sense objects. Now, what does this mean? Now, if you remember, if we go back to this slide, the consciousness that we were talking about are those in this first line, the 12 akusala and the 8 jnana vipayutta kama javana, the 4 jnana vipayutta kusala and the 4 jnana vipayutta kriya. So we said that, we discussed before that these consciousness are able to take all Dhamma except for supramundane Dhamma as their objects. And this is why here it is mentioned, ime dhamma siya Parittārammaṇa. They can have limited objects. Siya Mahaggatārammaṇa. They can have sublime sense objects. But they are na Appamāṇārammaṇa. They cannot have immeasurable sense objects. They cannot take anything supramundane as their sense object. So that is the meaning of that. Then again, it goes on to say, siya navatabba Parittārammaṇa tipi Mahaggatārammaṇa tipi can be not stated as having limited sense objects nor as having sublime sense objects. Now this seems a bit odd. It's a bit confusing. Now in the previous line they said they can take limited sense objects, they can take sublime sense objects. Now at the same time they are saying at times they may not take either limited nor sublime sense objects. Now, what does this mean? This means, this is with reference to this bit, paññatti, concepts. Concepts are neither paritta nor are they sublime nor are they immeasurable. Paññatti are something which does not fall into any of these 3 categories. So here what they're really talking about is with reference to the paññatti. So the commentary chapter goes on to mention that these dhammas can take things apart from Parittārammaṇa and Mahaggatārammaṇa. And because we don't really talk about paññatti in this, in the Dhammasaṅgaṇī, it's not mentioned clearly, it's not straight away directly mentioned as paññatti here. So instead, what it says is, siya navatabba Parittārammaṇa tipi. They can be not stated as having limited sense objects, nor as having sublime sense objects. So this is with reference to the paññatti dhamma. Now we come to the next paragraph in the Atthakatha Khanda. Kāmāvaccara kusalato chattaro jnana sampayutta chittuppada. The 4 jnana sampayutta kāmāvaccara kusala, the 4 sense sphere wholesome states associated with knowledge. Kiriyato chattaro jnana sampayutta chittuppada. The 4 jnana sampayutta kriya chitta, mahakriya, the 4 functional states associated with knowledge. Rūpāvacarang Chatutthang jhana kusalatocha kiriyatocha. The fine material sphere, 4th jhana, wholesome and functional. Now here it's mentioned as Chatutthang jhana. So Chatutthang jhana means in the 4 jhana system, the 4th jhana. But if we are referring to the 5 jhana system, it will be the 5th jhana. So in certain places it is mentioned as Chatutthang jhana, in other places, it may be mentioned as Panchama jhana. So that you have to take in the context of which jhana system they are talking about. Kiriya hetuka mano viññāna dhātu upekkhā sahagata. Now this needs to be broken down. Kiriya meaning functional, ahetuka meaning rootless, mano viññāna dhātu, mind consciousness element. upekha sahagata, accompanied by equanimity. Ime dhamma siya Parittārammaṇa, siya Mahaggatārammaṇa, siya Appamāṇārammaṇa. Now here, these states can have either limited sense objects, they can have sublime sense objects, and they can also have immeasurable sense objects. And again, it goes on to say, like in the previous slide, siya navatthabba Parittārammaṇa Tipi, Mahaggatārammaṇa Tipi, Appamāṇārammaṇa Tipi. They can also be not stated as having limited sense objects, nor as having sublime sense objects, nor as having immeasurable sense objects. Now let's take each of these one by one. So here we are talking about the 4 jnana sampayutta kāmāvachara kusala, the 4 jnana sampayutta kāmāvachara kriya, and the rūpāvachara chatutta jnana, meaning the abhiññā, kusala and kriya. And again, the kriya ahetuka mano viññāna dhātu upekha sahagata, rootless functional mind consciousness element. Now what is this? This is the manodvara vajjana chitta. Now, how do we know that this definitely is the manodvara vajjana chitta? So here they are saying it's a rootless, functional dhamma, which is accompanied by equanimity. So it's a upekha sahagata, ahetuka upekha sahagata kiriya chitta. So, what are the ahetuka upekha sahagata kiriya chitta? We have 3 kriya chittas. One is the panchadvara vajjana chitta. That is also upekha sahagata. Next we have the manodvara vajjana chitta. That is also upekha sahagata. Next we have hasituppada. That is somanasa sahagata. That is a somanasa sahagata chitta. So out of the 2, Panchadvara vajjana and Manodvara vajjana, how do we differentiate the 2? Here it goes on to mention Mano Viññāna Dhātu. That is how we differentiate between the 2. The Manodvara vajjana is a Mano Viññāna Dhātu chitta, whereas the Panchadvara vajjana chitta is a Mano Dhātu chitta. So that is how we know that here what is being referred to is the Manodvara vajjana chitta. Next, we'll look at this next statement. Now, these all of these dhammas can take limited sense objects, sublime as well as immeasurable sense objects. Now, we'll go back to our table. Now, here what we are talking about are the dhammas in the 2nd and 3rd lines. So the 2nd line, we spoke about the 4 jnana sampayutta kāmāvachara kusala and the 5th jhana abhiññā kusala chitta. They take all dhammas except for the arahatta, magga and phala. And the 3rd line, we spoke about the manodvara vajjana and the 4 jnana sampayutta kāmāvachara kriya and the 5th jhana abhiññā kriya chitta. They can take all dhamma. So this includes Parittārammaṇa, Mahaggatārammaṇa, Mahaggatārammaṇa as well as Appamāṇārammaṇ. They can take all of those dhamma, and apart from them, they can also take concepts, paññatti, as their object. The next line, siya navatthabba Parittārammaṇa Tipi, Mahaggatārammaṇa Tipi, Appamāṇārammaṇa Tipi. Now, this is that a bit of a controversial sounding sentence. So here, in the previous sentence, they say these dhammas can take either limited sense objects, sublime or immeasurable objects. But now it's the next sentence is saying at times it can be not stated as having a limited sense object, as having a sublime sense object, or as having an immeasurable sense object. Now here again, it is with reference to the concepts or the paññatti, because these dhammas can also take concepts as their object. And here, because concepts are not part of this tika, We don't have Parittārammaṇa Dhamma. We don't have that kind of term here. So because it is not part of that, as the final sentence, just to make it complete, for completion's sake, it's mentioned as at times, these dhammas also take certain objects which do not fall to these three categories. We now come to the last slide of today's talk. The summary slide of Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, states that have limited sense objects. So we have divided them into two broad categories. Ekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, meaning that these particular Dhamma always take a limited sense object. So they never take anything apart from a limited sense object. And then we have the Anekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, the Dhammas that take limited sense objects, and at times they are able to take other Dhammas as their sense objects as well. So first, moving on to the Ekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma, we have the Panchadvara Vajana, the 5 sense door adverting chitta, the 23 Kamavachara Vipaka, the 15 Ahetuka Vipakas, and the 8 Mahavipaka, as well as the Hasitu Pada. All of these give us a total of 25 chitta. Together with these arises 33 Chetasika, except for the 2 Appamāṇā and the 3 Virati. And then the Anekanta group, we get the Manodvara Vajana and 28 Kamavachara Chitta, the 12 Akusala, 8 Kusala, 8 Kriya. And the 2 Abhiññā Chitta, the 5th jhana, if we are talking about the 5 jhana system, or if we are referring to the 4 jhana system, it will be the 4th jhana, Kusala and Kriya Chitta. These are the direct knowledge consciousness. And together with them arises 50 Chetasika, except for the 2 Appamāṇā. And in total, we get 31 Anekanta Parittārammaṇa Dhamma. And all together, we have 56 consciousness in total. So it is time for questions. Brother Jeju, I think there is a question in Chinese.
Oh, okay. 现在是大家可以提问的时间呢。那这边有一个中文的问题，请教您一下，老师好，请教您一下，一门转向性在什么情况下可以直接取涅槃为所缘？醒察自知时可以吗？除此之外呢？Doctor, the question in Chinese. Now, I would like to ask teacher, for Manodvara Vajana, under what situation can it directly take Nibbana as an object? During Paccavekkhana Jnana, this reviewing knowledge time, can it take Nibbana as object? Other than this, are there any other situation that the Manodvara Vajana can directly take Nibbana as object, please?
Yeah, you are right. So it is now during Paccavekkhana. So once an enlightened individual, whether it's Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, or Arahata, once they come out of that state and they reflect back on what they have achieved. So there are 5 different things that they generate this Paccavekkhana chitta. And one such instance is they reflect back and think of what are the unwholesome states I have eliminated through this process. So for example, if it is a person who has attained the state of stream entry, then they would have eliminated Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikicca, and Silabbata Paramasa. So that individual can reflect back and think, okay, I have eliminated these akusala. And what are the akusala dhamma that are remaining? So that is the second type of Paccavekkhana. What are the remaining akusala dhamma that I have to eradicate? Then they will reflect on the magga that they have generated they can reflect on the phala that they have, phala chitta that they have generated, and finally nibbana. So those 5 things are the 5 things that the stream enterer will reflect on. Similarly, the once returner will also reflect on those 5 things. Then the anagami individual, again, those 5 things. But when it comes to the arahatta individual, he reflects only on 4 things because he has eliminated all defilements. So he will reflect on all the defilements that he has eliminated, but there is nothing left. So there is nothing left for him to reflect as what more defilements do I have, what more akusala do I have to eliminate. So that does not take place because he has eradicated all defilements. But the remaining things, the arahatta magga, the arahatta phala and nibbana, those will be reflected on. So yes, it is during this stage of paccavekkhana that the Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arahatta individuals will reflect on using the Manudvara Vajjana Chitta. Yes, is that answer clear?
Doctor, other than this Paccavekkhana, would there be other situation that the Manodvara Vajjana can take Nibbana as object?
Not that I could think of any other, but I'm not sure actually. I can't think of any other instances.
The questioner says thank you.
Okay, so we have another question here. Good evening, Doctor, and all Kalyana Mittas. Pardon me for not understanding yet. Please, Doctor, kindly explain why 12 akusala is anekanta Parittārammaṇa. I thought they only can take sense objects. And also why as 5th jhana abhiññā can take sense objects. I thought it only takes paññāti as its object. Anumodana, Dr. Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu. Right. So there are 2 parts to this question. We'll take the first part. Why the 12 akusala chitta are considered as anekanta Parittārammaṇa. Now, we'll take a simple example. So let's take a certain individual is thinking of a certain person. So if you think of a place or a certain individual, it's actually a concept that we are really thinking of. At that time, if that individual generates an akusala chitta, the object there is a concept, right? So let's say, for example, I look at a flower and I think, oh, this is very beautiful, and I generate a lobha chitta. So there, it is that, and I think to myself, I must acquire this. So then there I am generating a lobha chitta for something, for a concept that I have thought of. So there the akusala chitta is taking a concept as its object. If you take another example, say for example, let's say an individual, he meditates, he develops a certain jhana. Later on, he reflects back and he starts thinking about that jhana that jhanic state that he developed, and he starts developing lobha chitta, longing or craving. I must generate this jhana chitta again. It's such a comfortable state to be in, and that lobha chitta is taking that jhanic state that he has acquired before as its object. So likewise, an akusala chitta can take not only Paritta Dhamma, but it can also take Mahaggatārammaṇ as well as concepts. But these akusala chitta can never take a supramundane object as its sense object. So that is why we say that the akusala chitta are not only Parittārammaṇa, they can be either Mahaggatārammaṇa, or they can be they can take concepts as well. Then moving on to the next part, how is it that we say that the fifth jhana abhinya can take sense objects? So here you are very correct to say that if you take the rupavachara jhana, they take concepts as their object. That is very correct. So if you take the kasina, if you take things like karuna bhavana, mudita bhavana, then maitri bhavana, all of these are talking about concepts. Then what is this that we're talking about here? Now, this is a very different type of jhana chitta. Once an individual is able to generate the jhanas from the first jhana until the fifth jhana, and they practice it so well that they are able to basically, determine, okay, if they sit down and they say, okay, I want to, if they determine from the first jhana, I want to immediately jump to the fifth jhana, or from the fifth jhana, jump back to the first jhana. They are able to switch between jhanas, like changing gears when they're when they have practiced it so well, they are able to switch between jhanas. They can jump from the first to the fifth, or whichever way they want. They are also able to determine the time, the duration that they are going to remain in that particular jhana. So because they have practiced it so well. So such individuals are able to use this fifth jhana to see different things. For example, they can develop something called dibba chakku. So dibba chakku is like a divine eye. They can see beyond what this normal eye can see. They can develop what is called dibba sota. Dibba sota is where they can hear things that cannot be perceived by our normal mundane ear. So it's like they can hear things which are far away, which we can't really hear from where we are. So these are through developing that the jhanas by practicing for a long time. So this fifth jhana abhinya is also such a jhana. This abhinya chitta is able to take any object as its sense object. So depending on whether this fifth jhana is a kusala jhana or a kriya jhana. So when will it be a kusala jhana? A fifth jhana abhinya will be a kusala jhana if it's developed by a putujjana person. A putujjana person is someone who has not, is a mundane person. He has not developed any supramundane chittas. Or if it's a stream enterer, sotapanna, or once returner, sakadagami, or a non-returner, anagami. Any of those individuals can develop this fifth jhana, abhinya, kusala. Then who develops fifth jhana, abhinya, kriya chitta? It has to be an arahatta. Only an arahant individual can develop the fifth jhana, abhinya, kriya chitta, because kriya chittas are generated only by arahants. So depending on whether this is a abhinya kusala chitta or a abhinya kriya chitta, the objects will vary slightly, because the abhinya kusala chitta can take as its object all dhamma except for the arahatta, magga and phala, whereas the abhinya kriya chitta can take all dhamma as its object. Is that clear?
Sadhu, teacher. Thank you very much for explaining. Yes, I get it now. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are there any more questions?
大家还有什么问题可以提出来？
老师，关于这个神通那个，我想再问一下，就是说我们对人类来讲，如果想了知别人的那个心思啊，或者看到其他的一些特殊的 现象可能需要神通心。但是我想，对于色界天神或者是欲界天神来讲，他们是不是不依靠这个神通心也能知道他人的一些想法之类的？比如说佛陀，在他临证悟之前，那个牧羊女供养他汝州的时候，他没有钵，四大天王呢马上知道了，就供养他钵。证悟之后呢，佛陀就不想讲法，大梵天就马上知道了，就劝说佛陀讲法，包括魔王，所谓的那个摩罗啊，也经常能了知佛陀的心。我就觉得他们是不是天神，他们自己就有那种能力啊，不用那个依靠神通就能了知，众生的那个想法之类的。我不知道是不是这样，请问一下老师。感恩。
好的，谢谢您现有的问题。Doctor, there's another question here regarding this Abhidhammattha. For human beings, in order to know, for example, the thoughts of others, to know the other people's thinking, to learn their mind, probably there's a need for this Abhidhamma, Cetoparinya Abhidhamma, I think. But the question is for Brahmas, the Rupa or Arupa Brahmas, as well as for Devas. In order to know others' thoughts, do they still need to have this Abhidhammattha, or they can directly know? For example, the questioner gave some example. For example, before his enlightenment, our Buddha, he received this offering from Lady Sujata, the milk rice offering. At that time, our Bodhisattva at the time, he did not have a bowl, but the four Chatu Maharajas, immediately they know, and then they could present the bowl for the Buddha. Then, in the case, after attaining the Sammasambuddhahood, our Buddha at the time initially was not inclined to teach the Dhamma, but Mahabrahma immediately knew the Buddha's thinking, and he came down to beg the Buddha to teach the Dhamma. And also, we have examples of the Mara knowing the Buddha's thoughts and trying to dissuade the Buddha in different ways. So in all these cases, for the Brahmas, for the Devas, for them to know the thoughts of others, do they need to have Abhidhammattha to know that, or they can somehow directly know without having this Abhidhammattha?
Okay, so if you take the devas, they are able to see beyond what an ordinary human eye can see. They can also hear beyond what an ordinary eye can see. But when it comes to the examples that you gave, they were all Brahmas, weren't they? So Brahmas are anyway, they are beings who have developed the jhanas. So it is unlikely that just because they are born in a Brahmic plane or a Deva plane, that an individual is able to read another person's thoughts. It requires that Abhidhammattha. So the Mahabrahma or those Brahmas that you mentioned, they probably had developed that Abhidhammattha, so that they were able to identify the thoughts going through the Bodhisattva's mind at that time. And so these are the Chetoparit. So the Parachitta Vijnana, ability to read another person's mind, does not come automatically. So the Devas, it's very unlikely a Deva who has not developed the jhanas, an ordinary Deva to be able, it's very unlikely actually. I'm not 100% sure about this, but my idea is that this Abhidhamma is necessary in order to truly understand. But of course, through body language or through, assumptions, you can kind of, now, for example, you may have heard of, what do you call it? This, like the sixth sense, what do you call it? I forget the word.
Intuition?
Not intuition. I forget the word now. Telepathy. Yeah, like telepathy. So that is not really an abhinya. So sometimes when you know a person really well, you're kind of able to sense things. This person may be thinking this right now. And sometimes you may have had instances when you're with a very close individual, when a loved one of yours, you may sometimes say the exact same thing. You might think the exact same thing. So it's kind of like telepathy, that has got nothing to do with this abhinya. So you're just, because you're so familiar with that person, you can kind of get an idea, this person may be thinking this, maybe having these kind of thoughts. So that process also may be taking place sometimes. But if you really want to know exactly what somebody is thinking, then you need to develop this abhinya chitta. So my idea is that if you want to know exactly what a certain individual is thinking, then you require the abhinya. But through assumptions, you may be able to get a rough idea. But that is different to what the abhinya chitta does.
Hey, Doctor, just a point, because you mentioned all the examples given were just Brahmas, but I think he mentioned the first example was about the four Chatu Maharajas.
The
So that's it.
Chatu Maharajika Devas.
Yeah.
So then again, so again, when so there's no bowl, so a certain, okay, so the food is being brought and they can see that there is no bowl. So they can offer even without the abhinya, without reading the bodhisattva's mind, isn't it? So it's kind of obvious, even if there was some other individual nearby, they see the food is being brought, but this bodhisattva doesn't have anything to receive it in. They may present the bodhisattva with a certain object so that he can receive the dana. So it may have been by assumption as well, rather than reading the bodhisattva's mind. Because they're all watching, no? They have dibba chakku. They can see. So they can see what is going on.
Sorry, the questioner said thank you very much, Doctor, for the explanation. But he just add on to say that because he gave the example of Mara, and Mara is also a Deva, not a Brahma. So I think.
Okay, so if I am able, I'll try and I'll look into this, and if I'm able to find out more about it, I'll tell about it in the next lesson. But to me, I'm not really certain 100% whether they can actually read the person's mind similar to the abhinya chitta, the Chetopari or the Paricitta Vijnana, in that sense, whether they are able to read or whether it's through assumptions. So I will look into it and I'll let you know if I find out any more information during the next lesson. So we have a few more. Is there another question in the chat?
Just to say thank you very much, teacher, for the reply.
Okay, we have a few more questions from our emails. I think we could. They're short ones. So shall we take them now? So the first question that we were asked were, why are the abstinences not appearing with Rupavachara or Arupavachara chittas, but they appear with a Lokuttara chitta, even though the Lokuttara chitta, the Maggaphala, can be either first, second, third, fourth, or fifth jhana. So why this difference? Where the abstinences are not found in the Rupavachara or Arupavachara, but are found in Lokuttara Chitta. So what are abstinences? Abstinences are virati. Virati are samma vacha, right speech, samma kamanto, right action, and samma ajivo, right livelihood. Now, when it comes to a kamavachara chitta, these three they never arise together. So at any given point, you get only one of these arising. For example, if someone if someone is speaking and that person is actively making sure that he is speaking the truth, that is an instance where that person is having samma vacha as one of his mental factors. Now, when he is, consciously abstaining from wrong speech, at that same time, you won't find samma kammanto and samma ajivo occurring at the same time. So only one of these can occur at any given time when it comes to the sense sphere consciousness. But what about the rupavachara and arupavachara jhana? These abstinences, virati, are prerequisites. You have to abstain from wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihoods as a foundation. So you abstain from those wrong actions and then you sit down, you meditate, and then you develop the jhanas. But these jhana themselves, now let's say, we'll take an example. Let's take a rupavachara jhana. Let's take a Patavi Kasina Rupavachara jhana. So a Patavi Kasina Rupavachara jhana, the object is the Patavi Kasina, the earth Kasina. So when the mind is focusing on that particular Kasina, is that individual abstaining, actively abstaining from right speech, actively abstaining from, wrong speech, actively abstaining from wrong action or wrong livelihood? No. At that particular moment, that chitta, that consciousness is focusing on the kasina, the Patavi kasina. So there is no relevance to this virati. There is no possibility that this virati can be occurring with that kind of consciousness. So the foundation is abstaining from all the wrong actions, the wrong speech, wrong livelihood. And then once that foundation is laid, only you can develop the jhanas. But the jhana chitta themselves do not generate or do not have any of these abstinences occurring as sahajata, mental factors that occur together with them. Then what about the lokuttara chitta? How come we are seeing the virati, abstinences occurring with the lokuttara chitta? Does it mean that you don't need that baseline foundation of sila, virtue? You do need the foundation. But here, when it comes to the lokuttara chitta, these three virati, samma vacha, samma kammanta, and samma ajiva, they have a different function. They are part of the Noble Eightfold Path. And that is the Magga Satcha. Magga Satcha is the Arya Attangika Magga, the Eightfold Noble Path. So the function of this Noble Path is to eliminate defilements. So if this Noble Path is occurring for the very first time, those 8 mental factors have the function or their role is to eliminate sakkaya ditthi, vicikicca, silabbata, paramasa, those 3 fetters. So at that particular point, that individual is not really actively abstaining from wrong speech or wrong action or wrong livelihood. There, the function is different. Those 3 virati are part of the Noble Eightfold Path. So as a path factor, their role is to eliminate defilements. So that is why this difference. Virati, so in summary, virati can occur in a sense sphere, kusala chitta. So at that time, only one out of the 3 can occur depending on what the object is. So if the person is actively abstaining from wrong speech, then it will be samma vacha. If that person is actively, let's say a mosquito comes and bites an individual, he actively abstains from killing it. So that is samma kammanto. Then when it comes to livelihood, let's say a person gets an opportunity to maybe, okay, let's say a merchant, a rich person comes and, asks, okay, how much is this object? And now he knows, the merchant knows this man is rich. Maybe I can tell twice the price and sell my goods. But without doing that, he thinks, no, I will not do that. That is the wrong way of livelihood. I will tell the correct exact price, and even though this man is rich, I will sell it for the same price. So that is actively engaging in right livelihood. So in all of these three instances, you get only one of these three occurring, not all three together. Then when it comes to Rupavachara and Arupavachara jhana, those chitta themselves do not have the three virati, but the three virati form the foundation of virtue, sila. And it is a prerequisite to develop the jhana. Then when it comes to the Lokuttara chitta, you need that foundation of sila. The three abstinences are the foundation of sila. And in addition, they also are part of the Noble Eightfold Path. So their role is different. It is to eradicate the defilements together. So the Eightfold Noble Path, the eight mental factors there arise together. They all eight of them occur at the same time. Okay, so we have two questions on this virati. So one question is whether the Sekha person still practice virati. Okay, now who is a Sekha person? A Sekha person is Sotapatti Magga Phala, Sakadagami Magga Phala, Arahatta Magga. So those 7 individuals fall under the category of Sekha. Asekha is the Arahanta Phala, the individual who has completely eradicated all defilements and has become an Arahant. So when it comes to the Sekha individuals, they are still training. That is why they are called Sekha. So training in what? They are still developing their mind. They are still practicing the path in order to eradicate all defilements. So yes, they still are practicing the virati because they haven't eradicated all defilements. They still generate akusala, but of course not to the degree that will result in rebirths in lower planes like the apayas. They won't be born in lower realms. So either a human plane or above, that is where they can be born again. But still they do generate akusala. So they still generate lobha chittas, but without ditti. So there's no ditti involved there. There's no wrong view. So they still generate ditti vipayutta lobha chitta. They generate dosa chitta, moha chitta. So they, except for, of course, vichikicca, uddacha chitta still occurs. So they still generate akusala. So because they are still not fully purified, they have to practice virati. They have to abstain from certain defilements. So the virati still occur. Now, the next question is asked, again, it's mentioned that the 3 viratis can arise when we prevent to do akusala when they have a chance. Yes, that is correct. So whenever an opportunity arises for an akusala to arise, then we will abstain from it. Because now let's say, for example, a mosquito is biting, I will actively abstain from killing it. So that is samma kammantu. There is no involvement of samma vacha or samma ajivo there. So depending on the situation, the relevant action will be there. So if someone asks me a question, let's say I have made some sort of mistake and someone asks me about it. Now I have the option of accepting my mistake or lying and covering it up. So I will actively think, no, it is wrong to lie. I will tell the truth. It's true that I have made a mistake and I will have to suffer the consequences, but I will tell the truth. that is samma vacha. At that time, there is no samma kammanto or samma ajivo. So depending on the situation, only one of the three viratis will arise, not all three together. So in summary, the second individual, he still has uneradicated defilements left. So he still has to continue purifying himself. So his sila is not complete. Therefore, the viratis, the abstinences will have to be actively generated by the second individual. Asekka individual, of course, there is no need for the virati to, there is no reason for abstaining because they have completely eradicated all defilements. Is that clear?
那其实这个问题
The last part, Doctor. I mean the last part is the main question for me from me. The last part, there is 3 causes in Mahakusala that can make virati arise. Number 3.
The question is not clear.
Number 3 part. First, prevent the when we have the chance to do akusala, and number 2, we reflecting sila, and number 3, when someone taking maga and pala, is it right for Mahakusala virati, Doctor? From my work in the chat box.
Yeah, the third one is not clear to me.
The third one is, I mean that when someone has attained Sotapanna,
Yes.
and they still practice these 3 viratis, is included in this the cause from Mahakusala. Because I have learned Abhidhamma class, they said that the number 3 is not included in Mahakusala virati. It's included in Lokutara.
Do you mean to ask that the 3 virati don't arise with Mahakusala? Is that what you're asking?
No, number 3, when we have attained Maga and Pala, and they said that it is not Mahakusala practicing and including in the group Lokutara.
I'm still not clear what you mean by number 3. So if the first one, of course, when you have when you get the opportunity to do an akusala, you're preventing from it. Okay, that is clear. You generate virati at that point. Then when you're reflecting about your sila, and when you're reflecting about the sila, of course, then there is no abstinence there. You're just reflecting on your virtue. There is no abstinence at that point. Then the third one, actually, Brother JJ, are you clear about the third one here?
Maybe need to clarify with the questioner. The third case, is it referring to the time when there is Maggapala arises, the Maggapala is arising, or the time that for a Sikha person outside of the Maggapala, that when he's trying to abstain from doing something kusala, is which part maybe are you referring to? Because my understanding is the questioner was saying that her understanding is for a Sikha person, when they have this virati, it is also during Mahakusala, but she read somewhere that this for a Sikha person the virati is only during Lokutara. So I think
right. So okay. So okay, if you take the Magga, the Magga Chitta Viti, the Chitta Viti where one develops the Magga Chitta. So first we start with the manodvara vajjana, then we get parikamma, upachara, anuloma, gotrabhu, and finally the magga chitta appears. So the parikamma, anuloma, parikamma, upachara, anuloma, and gotrabhu. Those 4 chittas are jnana sampayutta mahakusala chittas. And the object that these consciousness take is nibbana during that final, that magga chitta viti. So when it's taking nibbana as its object, at that particular point, it is not actively abstaining. That mahakusala chitta is not actively abstaining from anything, right? So there, the virati will not occur. But when the magga chitta appears, the virati will occur as part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Then, of course, you get all 8 path factors occurring together at the same time. But the preceding Mahakusala Chitta, which are the Jnana Sampayutta Kusala Chittas, it could be one of the 4. It's only one type that you occur, either an Upeksha Sahagata or a Somanasa Sagata Kusala Chitta. So, but it is Jnana Sampayutta. So one of them will arise and you will get 4 of them arising of belonging to one type. So that in that instance, there is no virati, there is no abstinence there. Is that what you meant? Right. In Mahakusala, we have 3 causes for the 3 viratis to arise. Yes. So there has to be a cause for a virati to arise. That is correct. So it is when an opportunity presents itself, when there is an opportunity to either speak a lie or speak the truth, that is the opportunity for us to abstain from wrong speech. Then similarly, so you have to have a cause, and depending on that cause, your abstinences will vary, but at one given time, only one can occur.
Maybe, doctor, can I clarify in this way? For a Seka
Yes.
person, there
Yes.
are two situations that the viratis can appear. One is during the Magga Chitta, when they will arise together as part of the Eightfold Noble Path. Another is for a Seka person in the daily life. It may also appear the situation where they need to refrain, abstain from wrong speech, abstain from wrong action or wrong livelihood. In that case, then it will arise in the Mahakusala Chitta of a Seka person, and it will arise only one out of the 3. So for a Seka person, it can be either situation.
Yes, it's one of the 2 situations. Yes, that is correct. So I think the third one here is probably when we reflect on Sila. So when we are reflecting on our own Sila, there is no abstaining there. So it will be only 2 instances where a Sekka person will be generating the virati, either as a Mahakusala, where they are actively abstaining from something wrong, or in the Magga Chitta that they have generated, or the Phala Chitta. So a Sotapanna individual will later on can go into Phala Samapatti. Then during the Phala Samapatti, the Phala Chitta also will have all 8 factors occurring together. So that is another instance. But if you take the second one you mentioned, when reflecting on the Sila, that is not an instance where these 3 will occur, because you're not actively abstaining from anything. You're reflecting on your Sila. So that is, during that instance, you will not see virati occurring. Okay, let me add a little more to it. So there is one message in the chat which I missed. So here it is mentioned, I mean, when someone taking sila and have a chance to do akusala, then they don't do akusala. Is it included in virati? Now, let's say first thing in the morning we get up, we take our 5 precepts. We take our, we observe our sila in the morning. At that particular moment, we are taking a pledge that we will not engage in any of these 5 wrongdoings. But at that particular point, there is no abstinence as such. We are just taking that pledge. Then during the day, if we encounter a situation where we get the opportunity to do an akusala and we actively refrain from doing it, then only the virati will be arising. Not at the point that we are, observing our sila. We are taking the 5 precepts, because then the opportunity has not presented itself. But now, while we are worshipping, a mosquito comes and bites me, and then I actively refrain from killing it, then at that point, yes, the virati, samma kammanta, is arising at that point. So during the day, if a particular opportunity to do an akusala presents itself, and then we refrain from doing it, then the virati will occur. Again, only one at a time. So when we are worshipping and observing the precepts, if there is no opportunity to do an akusala, then there is no virati arising at that given point. Okay, a few more short questions. Why are we analyzing the tikas according to Khandha, Ayatana, Dhatu, and Arya Satya, and not, for instance, according to objects? Why these 4? So we can actually analyze the tikas according to various categories. Now, if you take the next book that we will be learning, the Vibhanga pakaraṇa, in that there are 18 separate chapters, and there we will be analyzing these tika apart from the Khandha, Ayatana, Dhatu, Arya Satya, according to Indriya, and then what else? Bala, Jhana, likewise Appamāṇā. Likewise, there are different other categories that we will be analyzing the tikas according to. So there's no hard and fast rule. We can analyze the tika in any way, according to any of these. Khandha, Ayatana, Dhatu, Indriya, even according to objects. But we are mainly focusing on Khandha, Ayatana, Dhatu, and Arya Satya here, because those 4 in particular are very important when it comes to vipassana, the practice, the practical aspect of the Dhamma. So the whole idea is to somehow start seeing all these Dhammas as mere elements, as mere Khandha, Ayatana, Dhatu, Arya Satya. There is no being involved. There is no person involved. So the ability to see anything as a mere Khandha or a mere Ayatana, Dhatu, or Arya Satya, that ability we need to develop through Vipassana. And during Vipassana, this process is taking place. So that is why in the tikas, when we analyze, we are mainly focusing on Khandha, Ayatana, Dhatu, and Arya Satya to show that there is no such thing as an individual or an animal or a person or a being as such. So that to stress on that point, on that fact, that is why we are speaking in according to these 4 things. However, it doesn't mean that you have to restrict yourself to analyzing the tikas according to these dhammas. You can analyze them according to various other divisions. So that we will be learning in the Vibhanga Prakarana. And of course, the Dhatu Katha Prakarana, again, we are speaking mainly about Khandha, Ayatana, and Dhatu. Yes, so there is no restriction. So for the purpose, for the help that this gives towards our practical aspect, the practice of vipassana, for that purpose, we are using mainly these 4 categories. Okay, another quick question. When is outside the scope named? I have the idea that sometimes we call outside the scope and sometimes not. Probably there is a logic in it. Can you share that with me? For instance, Nibbana is also outside the scope of the first 2, Paritta and Mahaggatārammaṇa, but not mentioned there. Okay, so when is outside the scope named? Now, if we are to categorize all of the ultimate realities according to the 5 aggregates, now we have everything here, including Nibbana. Then we are going to place Nibbana as outside the scope of the aggregates because Nibbana is not part of the 5 aggregates. However, when we take the Paritta Tika, let's take Parittārammaṇa. Parittārammaṇa has only Chitta, Cetasika and Rupa. Mahaggatārammaṇa has Chitta, Cetasika only. Appamāṇārammaṇa Dhamma has Chitta, Cetasika and Nibbana. So if we are now, when we are asked to classify the Parittārammaṇa according to Khandha, Ayatana, Dhātu and Arya Satcha, under Parittārammaṇa we get only Chitta, Cetasika and Rupa. So all of these are part of the 5 aggregates. There is no Nibbana here. So if they are not included under Parittārammaṇa, then there is no need or there is no need to mention as outside the scope because it is not there anyway. So what we are doing here is basically classifying the Dhamma under a particular term according to the Khandha, Ayatana, Dhātu and Arya Satcha. So the Parittārammaṇa, when we classify, we get all 5 Khandha. But there is no Nibbana here under Parittārammaṇa. So there is nothing outside the scope here. Again, same with Mahaggatārammaṇa. We get only Chitta, Cetasika. So we get the 4 Khandhas. There's no Nibbana here. So there is nothing outside the scope. But when it comes to Appamāṇārammaṇ, we get Chitta, Cetasika as well as Nibbana. Now, Nibbana has to be placed somewhere. We get the 4 Khandhas and Nibbana is not part of the Khandhas. So we mention it as outside the scope of the aggregates. And the last question, why are the Sampatichana receiving chittas and Panchadvara Vajjana, the 5 sensitive adverting chitta, Manodhatu, and Manodvara Vajjana, mind adverting chitta, not? Okay. So what is Manodhatu? That is the first thing we need to figure out. And when does it occur? The Manodhatu occurs only in the 5 sense, the Panchadvarika Chitta Vidya. So the 5 sense door cognitive processes. That's the only instance when you get this Manodhatu occurring. And the Manodhatu is situated before the, now let's take the eye door process. So if it's the Chakku Viññāna, you get 1 Manodhatu occurring before it. That is the Panchadvara Vajjana Chitta. And soon after the Chakku Viññāna, you will get the Sampatichana Chitta. And depending on whether it's a Akusala Vipaka or a Kusala Vipaka, one of the 2 Sampatichana Chittas will occur. So the 2 Chittas that are on either side of that Chakku Viññāna Chitta is what is referred to as Manodhatu. So this occurs exclusively in the Panchadvarika Chitta Viti, the 5 sense door cognitive processes. But when it comes to the Manodvara Vajjana, now when does the Manodvara Vajjana Chitta occur? Manodvara Vajjana occurs either in a Panchadvarika Chitta Viti, the 5 sense door cognitive process, as a Vottapana Chitta. or it can occur as the first active consciousness, active chitta, in a manodvarika chitta vidya, the mind or cognitive process. These consciousness are relatively more stronger than the manodhatu. Manodhatu doesn't do much of a action. You know, when let's say some sort of image falls on the chakku prasada, then the bhavanga chitta will vibrate, and then it will stop, it will arrest, and then we will get the panchadvarika chitta, panchadvara vajjana chitta, which will start looking from which sense door did was I disturbed, or did I get some sort of sensation from. So the panchadvara vajjana has the action of looking, kind of surveying from which sense door that the stimulus came in from. And then once the panchadvara vajjana chitta figures out which sense door, then the relevant chitta will arise. If it was a visible object, the chakku viññāna will arise. If it was a sound, the sota viññāna will arise. So this panchadvara vajjana chitta is a relatively weak sort of mind. So that is why these three, the panchadvara vajjana and the two sampatichana, are those three chittas are grouped separately as the manodhatu. So remember, the manodhatu occurs exclusively in the panchadvarika chitta vidi, the five sense door cognitive processes, whereas the manodvara vajjana chitta can occur in either of the two. In the panchadvarika chitta vidi, it occurs as vottapana chitta, and in the mind door the manodvarika chitta vidi, the mind cognitive process, it occurs as the starting point of that relevant cognitive process. So we come to the end of our talk, and the next lesson will be on the 2nd of February.
我们今天的课程呢就到这边今天是很长的一个课是下一堂课呢会在2月2号。
It's time to share merits. I would like all of you to join me.
接下来老师邀请大家呢跟着老师一起呢做这个功德的回向。
Akasatta Chibummatta Deva Naga Mahitika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Sasana Chiran Rakkantu Desana Chiran Rakkantu Mamparam Idam Nyatuna
Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo Idam Nyatina Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo Idam Nyata Hontu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo
Imina
Punya Kamina Samagamo Samagamo Nikana Idami punya asawa kaya hontu idami punya nikana samagamo Mama punya bagana satami desa tumi bagana bantu tidak sesalah jirang tidak tu tidak sesalah jirang tidak tu tidak sesalah jirang tidak tu sadu.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Doctor.
Thank you very much, Doctor.